Today, this is a bit more of a serious podcast. I have Eugene Katchalov on the show, who fled from the Ukraine. He's sharing his experience, his journey, what he has experienced there now since the war started with Russia. Of course, that's a huge tragedy. And also, we're trying to raise awareness and then share information on how you can help as well. But before we jump into this talk with Eugene, I want to share a few thoughts around this topic. First, I do not accept any opinions on trying to justify this war. Comments around this just will be deleted immediately, so don't waste your time. And this is, of course, also not a political platform. I'm using this platform to help people in need as much as I can. I understand people saying that EU, NATO, and America also play their part in this and fucked up big time. And there's also certainly some truth in it. However, anyone justifying this war is just out of their mind. I'm not a big fan of the politics in EU, America, and NATO as well. But this is a different story. Now it's time to help. And no matter what happened, there is no reason for this war. There is no justification. Furthermore, I've received messages why not helping Iran, Iraq, and other countries. Please use some of the few brain cells you might have left. I'm not a billionaire and I'm not Mother Teresa. We have countless conflicts around this world, unfortunately, and you can't help anyone. Yeah, if you want to help, then choose one or two or three situations and try to make an impact, no matter how much money you have, even if it's just 1 cent or 50 cents. This already helps a lot. And never ever criticize anyone who's trying to help. And last but not least, never forget, this is Putin's war. I know a lot of Russians and everyone, all of them are just ashamed of this war. And if we start showing hate towards Russian people, we are no better. We should all step up when borders are crossed, when violence is applied, but everyone deserves help who wants to live in peace and condemns this terrifying act of terror, no matter if he's from Russia or Ukraine. So don't hate against the Russians. Please keep this in mind. And I also kindly ask you to consider that this is the first time me doing such a podcast. This topic is, of course, very, very sensitive. And my goal is to raise awareness and, of course, also collect as much money as possible to help the Ukraine. I do believe stories and reports from people having experienced this closely should be listened to more often than what is actually being portrayed in mainstream media. And if I hurt anyone's feelings, I do apologize in advance. I hope I tried to hit the right tone. We also currently still have the support, the charity for Ukraine going on. All the donations, all the subs on our stream are being donated to Ukraine. Better use the donation opportunity because for subs, Twitch is taking a cut. We decided for the entire February, entire March, we're going to donate all of the money that is coming in. Again, you find all this information in the description as well as 50% of my recent Sunday winnings, and the next stream coming up, also 50% of my winnings will be donated to Ukraine as well. I think currently we're on $22,000 that we have collected, around 8,000 coming from donations and subs, and 15,000 from my winnings. So yeah, we try to reach more, 30, 40, maybe even 50K. Yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy this. And now let's talk to Eugene. Eugene, thank you so much for joining me here today. I know that you probably have a million other things to take care of. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm pretty sure we could have a fun conversation about poker and all sorts of other stuff. But today I want to talk about what's happening in Ukraine, your experience, and first of all, how are you? And no, first of all, thank you for taking the time. And then, of course, how are you and where are you at the moment?
My pleasure, Ben, and thank you for having me. Honestly, it's been incredible the amount of support I've been receiving from the whole poker community. Since the last week and a half. And it's just ongoing. So it's honestly incredible. So I'm kind of happy to bring more light to what's happening and kind of try to give us as much of a real picture of what's going on. I'm currently in Budapest, Hungary. I've been here for what is it now? Maybe 5 or 6 days or so. I'll be here for at least another 4 or 5 days, and we're actually now deciding what to do next. I'm not really sure yet. So we'll see. It still hasn't processed in my mind the kind of the full reality of what's happened. I still feel like I can just go home and kind of go back to my friends, my things, and just kind of life as I knew it. And it's kind of hard to process that no, I can't, and I don't know when I will be able to, if I will be able to. So I suppose that's something that'll take some time.
How is your?
But again, I am by no means I shouldn't even be complaining because there are so many people who are just magnitudes worse off than me. So I'm like less than 1% of what they're going through.
How is your family? Are you together with your entire family right now?
My wife's family, my family didn't live in Ukraine. My family lived, my parents live in the US.
Mm-hmm. You're an American citizen, right? Born and raised in Ukraine, or?
I was born in Ukraine. I left when I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in the US. I'm a US citizen. I don't have Ukrainian citizenship. I started spending more and more time in Ukraine, especially when I started representing Ukraine for PokerStars, and then eventually for a different company called Poker Match in Ukraine. Then I met my wife, and I settled down in Ukraine. Basically, I've lived there for the past 5 years or so. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I was asking if you're together with your family, and then I was asking you about, actually, because just for clarification for people that are watching, that you are an American citizen and born in Ukraine, and just talking about your situation with your family.
Basically, most of my life I lived in the U.S. It's only recently that I was living in Ukraine. I did kind of fall in love with the country, with the people, and I kind of imagined living there. For a long time, I do like to travel a bit, but I kind of always thought of Ukraine as kind of my home base.
Mm-hmm.
For the past 5 years. So I don't have any family there, but my wife, obviously, all of her family is there or was there. Most of them thankfully have been able to make it out. Her parents and sister just arrived yesterday. Everyone was kind of hesitant about leaving, during the past week and a half, because it just seemed like it just seems scary, like that you may have to travel for 3 days. There's lots of unknowns when you travel. We've heard some scary stories, but we just keep telling everyone that even though the best day to leave was yesterday, now kind of today is better than tomorrow. It's like it's just going to keep getting worse, and it's just going to keep getting harder. So if you have an opportunity to leave, you should. And if you can get into a safer area, you should. Thankfully, most of my wife's family is now here, but we obviously still have a lot of friends who are still there. We're always kind of in touch, and it's just scary what's going on, because literally the city that she's from, which is Kharkiv, it was a major city. It's like 1.5 million people.
The second biggest city, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second biggest city in Ukraine, and it was like they called it like a university city. Basically, like there was lots of universities there, and lots of foreigners actually there studying. Lots of kids just studying there. So, and now it's just they've literally just like demolished the city. It's unbelievable when I say it, and it's scary. And now even though we lived in Kiev, I guess the next thing is like, are they going to do the same thing to Kiev? And Kiev is like a huge metropolitan city. I mean, it's something like 4 or 5 million people. It's the size of Chicago. I mean, it's just a massive metropolitan city. So it's just scary to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel I've never been to Kiev. I was once in Odessa. Spent a couple of days there during the summer. Beautiful city. I loved it. I mean, directly to see, especially for younger people. So just heartbreaking to see what's happening there. You mentioned, and this is just something I want to throw in. I actually feel a deep connection to generally the Eastern European people mentality. My girlfriend is from Bulgaria, and of course we also making some plans maybe to move there. And I definitely see myself more living there. than actually in Austria. So I also spent a lot of my vacations in Šiofok, sunny beach in Bulgaria. I live close to the Polish border, my hometown in Germany. So I've always been a lot in touch, and I had always a connection to the Eastern European mentality. And so yeah, I always had the impression that they're very welcoming, very nice people. And I can definitely also see myself living there. I find that honestly, the connection with those people, I feel like I resonate better than with Austrian or Germans. That's for sure.
Interesting. Yeah. The people are honestly like are really wonderful and warm and kind, and it's been proven to me so many times now, especially like as we made this trip, and what our friends and family who've made the trip have told us, like literally along the way, even, from Ukraine, making it out, people would treat you to food, and, they wouldn't ask for any money. They would just be like, you don't need it. Just, you don't need the money, when you get to Europe. It's just incredible, the amount of support and the amount of support I'm hearing, I'm hearing people offering now from all over Europe.
Yeah.
And Bulgaria as well, by the way. I also, I've spent a lot of time in Sofia.
Sofia is beautiful.
People are wonderful. Yeah, it's really cool.
This is, of course, for me something I could never imagine. But I would like to know how it feels, like the very first moment when you seen. What went through your head when you heard the attacks or you've seen it? Like, can you maybe describe this a little bit for us? What were your first thoughts popping in your head?
Sure. Well, I guess, starting from, maybe about a month ago, I mean, certainly, the pressure kept rising. Mm-hmm. But up until the very end, we didn't, no one really believed that it would get to what it is now. Like, we kind of thought that there would be some fighting, perhaps in the Donbass region. I thought maybe the worst that can happen is maybe some sort of like terrorist attack in Kiev, like some sort of provocation or, something like that to get the government to, to agree to Putin's terms. But we just couldn't imagine like tanks rolling into the city or, bombers bombing, civilian buildings. Like, that's just something that was just like, is that really possible in 2022 with the whole world watching? It just didn't seem real. Having said that, the pressure still kept building. We were like, well, maybe we should still, just in case we're completely off on our read, maybe we should still just be ready in case it does happen. So starting a few weeks ago, we decided, all right, so let's make sure we always have a full tank of gas in the car, just to make sure, because we realized, there might be problems with gas if something like this happens, with panic. And we decided to put, to kind of gather, the most kind of valuable things that we need in order to leave in one place. Just put it in a book bag. So just things like, your passport, like marriage certificate, maybe just some cash, some jewelry or whatever. Just something that you don't need to kind of rush, run around and look for. So thankfully that was kind of ready. And I think leading up to the actual day of the attack, we also got together with friends, and we were thinking maybe to spend a little time in the west of the country, again, just to kind of until this thing kind of blows over. And then we went to that was Wednesday. That was last Wednesday, and we went to bed. We got home. We went to bed, and around 2 a.m, and at around 5:30 in the morning, we were woken up. I remember I heard in the distance, I heard a loud explosion, but I was like, what is that? I wasn't sure what that is. And then our friends called us and they were like, look at the news. Tanks are literally rolling through, the border. And bombers are, basically crossing the border as well and starting to bomb, military targets. So, so obviously that was very unnerving. And my wife's like, all right, well, we need to make our, we need to essentially leave the city because that would be like kind of the most dangerous. Quickly we got out of bed. We just basically packed as quickly as we could. It took us a half an hour. We just, took some basic like sports clothing. I took like one pair of sneakers and one pair of like Timberland boots because I figured in case we, we need to kind of walk, in the snow or whatever. So just the very, very basic necessities. I grabbed a bag, with all our paperwork, and that's it. We jumped into the car, drove to my wife's office. She picked up some cash. She distributed the cash, to her employees just to have it, at least a little money. Um, um, Kind of, to weather, whatever storm was upcoming. And we called, we agreed with all our friends to head to our friend's parents' house, 35 kilometers outside of the city. So that's kind of where we went. But it was already kind of unnerving because there was much more traffic than normal in Kiev at that time. I mean, at 6:30 in the morning, at 7 in the morning, and you can see panic kind of starting to settle into people's faces. And on the way, we saw people already kind of carrying luggages just in the street, just kind of making their ways either to cars, to trains, to buses, whatever. And like traffic was starting to pile up. So it was definitely unnerving.
What about food? Did you went to groceries, grabbed some stuff, like just to be prepared maybe for 2 3 days, not being able to have access to food? I mean, you never know, right? Like everything, or were there a couple of things that you just completely forgot about in the heat of the moment?
Well, we did. We took some water. We definitely took a good amount of water. I wasn't too worried about food because I mean I know you can survive without food for quite some time, and I'm used to fasting. I enjoy like long fasts. Like I often do like 5-day fasts. So like I wasn't worried about the food so much, but I knew we needed water just in case. But anyways, I think we took some. What did we take? I don't remember. I think we took some cans with us just in case. Some very, very basics, whatever we had. And I think our friends told us that they also had some food. So where we met up, there was a good amount of food at least to last for a couple of weeks, if needed.
Yeah, I I just sometimes I just don't even know what to say. I remember the moment when my girlfriend and I, and actually last week we spent a couple of days outside of Vienna, a bit of just relaxing, and I read it in the news. I was like, no way, like this is a fake news. Like it's not happening. I can't imagine this, and I know it's happening all over the world. Unfortunately, way too much, and it just, of course, the closer it gets to Europe, you just think like, no, it's unbelievable. And I was wondering, you just briefly touched on this. And I guess this is also where your poker player's mind approach comes into play, right? Like, what's the most expected outcome? And I guess you just did not consider this, right? And that's why you didn't leave earlier. What were the like, I don't know. Was it a thing to really leave earlier, or was it just like it's never going to happen, like, or it's very unlikely going to happen, right? Because something like this, if there's a tiny chance of a war, you might really consider leaving, right? But just like, and to be fair, I would have never considered this myself as well, because I've seen comments like, why didn't they leave earlier? It's like, dude, if you live in your country and you're not just leaving so easily, right? It's just you try to stay there as long as possible. It's your home.
Yeah, it's your home, and it's like, again, as I say, it's a huge metropolitan city, and we just didn't believe that it would like literally hit the city. But I mean, I also thought that if worse comes to worse, we would have time to leave as long as we're kind of prepared that we can make our way out. Like, some of my close friends, they were telling me a few weeks in advance that, you should, why don't you leave the country just in case and wait. But yeah, I mean, maybe it was, maybe it was naive of me. But then again, I don't think anyone expected it. And I think the proof that no one expected it is watching the markets, the way the markets reacted to this. Usually when there's such an overreaction in the markets, that means that no one kind of expected it.
Yeah.
That the general consensus that no one expected it, that would be that that bad. And in regards to your earlier comment, that it's really interesting, because I also think about it a lot, about how, unless you're actually there, how hard it is to appreciate the situation. And like I felt this to a great deal when I crossed the border and I got I got to Budapest, and you see just people kind of living their normal lives, walking around, holding hands, smiling, walking their dogs, like like everything's cool. and it's just like, to me, it's just like mind blowing. It's like, oh my God, like, of course, these people didn't see anything, that I saw. They didn't feel anything that I felt. And you can't blame anyone because, I would react the same way in their position. But having kind of had the fear that I had and magnify that by 100 as to what, other people have felt, have seen or felt in Ukraine. It's very difficult to transfer this, this kind of like instinct that kind of kicks in, this like self-preservation instinct that kicks in, and it's hard to describe, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of give a real-time picture of what I was feeling, of what was going through my mind as I was leaving and what I was experiencing, because I thought, well, at least, if people can get even like, a small percent, inside my mind, maybe they'll appreciate just how horrible the situation is. And that, I hope no one, has to ever go through it, because it's just horrific when you feel like everything around you is falling, that your life is in danger, and everything you own or have, you may lose instantly. Like, I'm lucky, at least I'm a U.S. citizen. Like, my bank is in the U.S. I have money in the U.S. Like, so I have a business in the U.S. So like, personally, I'm not, even though I still have, had a lot of resources in Ukraine that I've now lost. It's not everything for me. But I've had so many friends who were, successful guys who had businesses. Even just look at my wife; she had a really successful business in Ukraine with, clothing business, 4 stores, and one day to the next, it's just suddenly gone, and everything's just gone, like just wiped out. And I know so many people like that. It's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just shows what kind of person you are to realize that I can't even imagine like being in your situation, even though, as you said, you belong to the 1%, right? You haven't lost everything. And I'll just think about all the people that literally have lost everything, right? And it's just something that is so heartbreaking. And
that's part of the reason why I thought, like, maybe the best thing I can do is at least use my platform to maybe raise some money for this, try to maybe help logistically, connect people, connect refugees, and eventually also help people in Ukraine. I thought maybe that's actually where I can be most useful.
Yeah, I followed.
But I don't like. I think anybody would do this in my place, because literally everyone who comes out is like, okay, how can I help? What can we do? I mean, basically everyone is doing what they can, what's in their power to do.
Yeah, and I think it's. I followed your journey on Twitter as well, and I did appreciate all the information. I felt it's way more reliable than what you get from mainstream media. Of course, some of this is true, but a lot of this is actually not true, and you have no interest in twisting the facts. And I also think this is something where a lot of people think, I can't do anything. I think every penny, every 50 cent counts. It's a meal for a person, or even it's a bottle of water, 2 bottles of water. And imagine millions of people doing this. So, and I was in the same position. Like, what can I do? Like, I cannot just go there and fight the Russians and defend your country, right? But I was like, and I came home on the weekend. I felt like I have no motivation to play poker. Like, it's just so terrible. And then I was thinking, you know what? Like, I could use my platform as well. I could raise awareness. And I found motivation to play. Like, I was really motivated to play poker. And then this is something, when you lose motivation for something, that's not necessarily for this, but I think this is a great cause. This is very motivating for you, right? And I think everyone that is watching right now and listening, I know this might look like overwhelming, but you can do something with whatever it is, right? Just maybe driving to the border for one day and then bringing some water or food. Or if you live far away, maybe if it's just $1, if you don't have a lot of money, or even at least on social media, not maybe spreading misinformation. I think there's so much that we all can do in order to support Ukraine in this matter.
You're so right, Ben. And honestly, like, every penny helps, but it's not, even if you can't give money, it's like you don't have to, it's not just about the money. There's, people reaching out to me, saying, I don't have any money to help with, but I have, I have a spare room that I can house somebody in if needed. Or even if they don't have that, they say, if I can be a helpful resource for you, maybe to research something on the internet, if I could just, basically offering their time, like just people offering everything. So,
Yeah.
I think every little bit helps. And, I think now we are seeing a lot of, people helping, the refugees. I think now the biggest problem, I would say, is actually logistically speaking, to get help into Ukraine. That's also something that me and my wife and our friends here have been focused on the last couple of days. We've been, we found a way to get some resources back into Ukraine. So that's something we've. My wife was kind of buying up a bunch of different, humanitarian things here and through Poland to get them back to Ukraine. But I think that's kind of the biggest bottleneck, because what we're seeing is that, there are a lot of people in Ukraine who don't have medicine, just basic things that aren't, that we can't get in there, and it's just hard to figure out how do we get them in there while we're in the middle of a war that just keeps getting hotter and hotter. But having said that, as I said, like every bit helps, because people are constantly looking for new ways to enter Ukraine and to help all the the millions of refugees that are now coming through the border.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, didn't want to interrupt you. I just had some issues with the cam, but
Sure.
I think everyone heard your valuable piece of advice, and I think that's very important also. And this is something we also share if you guys want to donate through our Twitch panel, our platform. You'll find all the information in the description, as well as your organization. We're going to put this all in the description as well. And yeah, also the upcoming Sunday, if I'm going live, remember all the donations for entire February and March are going to Ukraine as well, or to your organization that you consider. And this was very important to me in finding an organization where not the most money is being used for paperwork or middleman or any kind of fee, so that the money really arrives there where it's most needed.
I'm happy to talk about that. The organization that I partnered with,
share
it's the King. It's the King Bedouin Foundation. It's been around for a few decades. It has headquarters in Brussels and New York. And basically what they do is they collect money, and then they look for different they vet different NGOs that are helping kind of on the ground.
Okay.
Specifically in this case, whatever money they raise, it's going to be split equally between 3 different NGOs. One is the Polish Red Cross. The next one is People in Need, that's from Czech Republic, and the third one is called Caritas, I believe, or Caritas. That's a Ukrainian NGO. So all of these are kind of over 10 or 20 years old. They are from what I understand, they are very reliable. The money's going to go to the right place. Now, in terms of the King Bedouin Foundation themselves, to be completely transparent, they take, I believe, 5% of everything they raise. That's for their kind of expense, and then 95% will go to the NGOs.
I mean, there's always going to be some fees. There's still people working, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be. There's some additional expenses, and that's fine. But from what I've heard, some organizations, that half of the money is not arriving. This is, of course, something that's not necessary.
That was really important to me to avoid that. So thankfully, I had a really good friend of mine who has connections with lots of different charities. He helped me do all this research, and we spoke to a number of them. And this one seemed to be kind of the how do you put it?
Most effective?
The most along the way.
Yeah.
The most effective today, because the other organizations are still setting up. Like they were like, well, we still need a couple of weeks. We're just not there yet, because it's not like they can just quickly become effective when something unexpectedly just explodes. So it takes a few weeks for them to set up. But I really wanted to to do something today and, not wait. And these guys seem to kind of have everything in place. And I kind of appreciated that, their transparency and, where I read about the NGOs that where the money's going to go to. So I kind of felt comfortable with pushing them. So hopefully we can do some good.
Yeah. I think we found a great organization where we can donate the money, and thank you for sharing this with us. Would it be okay for you to share a little bit the journey once you left from Kiev to Budapest? Just sharing your experience with us.
Sure. So do you mean between Kiev and Budapest or after?
Whatever you would like. This is just probably a journey that never of us anyone ever experienced, right? And I just would like to understand it better.
Sure. The actual trip from Kiev to the border was very nerve-wracking. I mean,
how many kilometers is it? How long? Like roughly?
I believe roughly 600 kilometers, 700 kilometers, roughly somewhere around that. It took us, I believe, 22 hours to get to the border. We left. We spent almost a full day just outside of Kiev in the village that we kind of settled in. We weren't sure. At first we were thinking about perhaps staying there and not, just kind of weathering the storm there. And we were debating, do we go or do we not go? Because there was actually a lot of danger in going to the border, because we heard a lot of stories about, obviously, traffic was piling up, like just completely insane. I heard, the gas stations were empty. And, the biggest fear that was going through our minds was, what if we get stuck in the middle of the highway, in the middle of nowhere, with cars broken down? What do we do? Like, maybe it's just better to stay at least in a warm home that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So that was kind of unnerving. And we knew we didn't have, having a full tank of gas was not enough to get us to the border. So it was a risk, to head out. At some point, we actually decided to leave my car behind. So I was the only one with a sedan. The rest of our friends had SUVs. And my sedan, I had some problem with the tire too. And considering the roads, you would get really, really bad as you go west. I just thought like there was too high of a chance of my car breaking down. We thought maybe it's just better to just leave it and just, go on the SUVs, which are probably more reliable on bad roads, especially if we have to go around roads. I mean, we don't know what to expect. Like, it was reasonable that the roads would be blown up by bombs, and we may have to go off road to go around. So that's something that my car would never be able to pull off, and SUVs would probably have been a better option for that. So at some point we decided, let's try to siphon gas from my car, with like one of those tubes that you have to like suck in the gas. I was like, oh my god. But it actually didn't work, because apparently, like, I had a small Mercedes, and I think Mercedes has like some sort of protection that doesn't allow you, from thieves essentially. It doesn't allow you to siphon gas in the gas tank. So we weren't able to siphon gas. So at some point we just decided, well, I think we just need to go. We'll leave my car in in this village, and we'll go on the 3 SUVs with our friends. And it's good being part of the kind of in one group, because we figure if anything happens to one car, we can just leave everything, forget everything, and just jump into to the next 2 cars, and go. And when we left in the early morning, I believe this was now Friday, 5 a.m., we decided to head out. We got a couple of hours of sleep the night before, because we knew we would have a very, very long journey ahead of us. And as soon as we head out, we hit our first, it's called like a block post, where, it's scary. Like, you're still, middle of the night, you're approaching it in the middle of the road. There's just like concrete blocks kind of in a maze, right? Formation. And as you approach it, there's like 10 guys with Kalashnikovs, and, obviously with, very serious looks on their faces, and kind of asking you for IDs, who you are, where you're going. And you just don't, you don't know, are these like, is this the military? Are these just volunteers? Or are these like bandits or marauders that are, they're going to rob us? Because you have to remember also, obviously everyone knows that whoever is kind of making their way west likely has all their valuables with them. So that, that includes, probably a lot of cash, any kind of jewelry or whatever. And people are just bringing everything. So, what's a better time to, rob someone than then? So it was very unnerving. Thankfully, I think they were probably like either military or volunteers. They just, checked our paperwork and let us go. Then, along the way, there were a few times we saw huge explosions. Thankfully, it wasn't right next to us and when it was in the distance, but it was still like you just see like this huge explosion in the background. And we're just like, oh my God, that's somewhere near Kiev. That's somewhere happening near Kiev. And then, I think at least 3 times we passed by military convoys driving in the opposite direction, and they're driving very slow and they're very long. It's just like, tanks or just military vehicles.
Ukrainian forces or Russian forces?
Yeah.
Ukraine, yeah.
At that point, it was just Ukrainian forces going from west to protect Kiev. But again, considering the Russian Air Force was already flying overhead, essentially we knew that these convoys are prime targets for bomb raids.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was also very unnerving. So I would say like those are the scariest parts of our journey. And then obviously, like, as I'm driving, my wife is reading the news, and the further we get along, we keep hearing that cities next to us are literally being bombed, and we're like, we have to go around the cities. You cannot go into the cities, so we have to go through little tiny villages, like kind of dirt roads, because everything's being bombed.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just my cam is resetting. It's some issues today. Don't worry about this. And how many, like, when was the point where, I mean, this might be the wrong way of saying it, where things settled a bit down, but like when you got a little bit more optimistic that, okay, the biggest danger is over, and now it looks much better, or it looks very optimistic that we're going to get to the border without any problems.
It was honestly, it was a roller coaster of emotions the whole day. It was really scary at first. Then we kind of came down a little bit when there was like a quiet period of maybe 3-4 hours where nothing happened, and then again, we heard military planes overhead. So again, we kind of became the nerves kind of perked up. And then we started hearing rumors as we actually approached the West Coast, as we were kind of getting closer to our destination. We started hearing that Lviv was about to be bombed and was about to be closed, and as well as Ivano-Frankivsk, which are 2 cities which are kind of on the west coast of Ukraine. And we heard that there was a rumor that like a group of Chechen soldiers essentially parachuted down somewhere on the west, somewhere near Ivano-Frankivsk, kind of where we were. And those guys are they have a really brutal reputation for just kind of being brutal, like the Chechens. So that was also scary. We don't know what to expect. Who are they there to hunt? Essentially what are they there to do? So it was a roller coaster of emotions. The whole way. I would say the first time that we kind of could sort of breathe out, I would say was we got stuck in really, really bad traffic about 120 kilometers from the border.
200 kilometers or 22?
120 kilometers.
120.
So,
jeez.
Yeah, still far. And what it was, I mean, it was probably like checkpoint, I don't know, maybe like number 10 that we went through, but it was like a really long one. I think for some reason they were really, going slow and, checking each car very, very carefully. So we got stuck in this traffic for like 3 hours, and we didn't know when it was going to clear up. It was, it was already late. It was like it was like maybe like 9 p.m. or something, 10 p.m. So it was dark, and there was no way you can go off the road because it was a hilly area and it was just like all snow, and so we were just kind of stuck there. But at some point, then I actually opened up Google Maps. Also, like internet was kind of on and off. It was really it was kind of going on and off. I open up Google Maps and I see that even though we're 120 kilometers from the Hungarian border, we were literally, I would say, like 100 meters from the Polish border. But it wasn't like the official Polish border. It's not one where you can cross. It's just like, maybe like a forest that's considered Poland.
Okay.
So we're like, oh my God, we're literally like, stone throw away from Polish border. And I was like, well, if you think of it this way, we're probably pretty safe from any bombing or from any attacks because, I don't think the Russians would take a chance of any kind of bombing runs or attacking so close to NATO border. So I think that's the first time that we actually felt like, we should, pretty good chance that we're probably pretty safe here.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it took us another, once the traffic cleared up, once we were able to get past the checkpoint, it took us maybe another 2 hours to get to the border. And then we had to go to a couple of different borders because there was like massive traffic everywhere. But essentially, we ended up anyways at the Hungarian border. It was like 2 a.m, cars weren't moving. So we literally just decided to pull over on the side of the highway and just take a nap in the car, for 4 hours or something, 3-4 hours, because we were exhausted. Like I couldn't even see anything. We were just really, really tired.
Yeah, I guess you didn't get a lot of sleep, right? Throughout these 2 days?
Yeah, those 2 days, literally just like, maybe 1 or 2 hours each night. But it's even then though, I must say during that 22-hour drive, I would say for the most part, I wasn't even that tired. I literally got tired when I relaxed, probably when I realized I should be safe. But before that, it's incredible, like what your adrenaline and cortisol, and the cortisol, I think it's called, that your body produces. It's incredible how it just keeps you focused. Like I wasn't tired, I wasn't hungry, I wasn't thirsty. I was just kind of like, it just like helps you focus in and zero in and just kind of just get you, just puts all your energy to accomplishing the one goal you've set for yourself. So
it's survival instincts that unleashes some extra power.
Yeah, and that was incredible. And then basically we slept for like 3-4 hours on the side of the highway, in our cars. Woke up at around 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. We got onto the line at the border, and actually then I think the shift changed at the with the border guards, and it started to go pretty fast. I mean, it only took us maybe a couple hours before we were in front of the border guards, and then kind of safely across, and now actually speaking to Hungarian border guards. And as soon as we made across there, we quickly stopped over a gas station to kind of, in Hungary, to kind of breathe out, get some gas, get some, get like a hot dog at least, in the gas station. And as soon as my wife got out, I remember in the gas station, she kind of leaned over the candy stand and she just started crying. Like it was so emotional, like after to finally be able to kind of breathe out and feel like you're probably safe right now. But then after that, as soon as we felt safe, like we breathe out, literally like immediately the next thought is like, oh my God, what now? How what happens to everyone else? What can we do to help everyone else inside and who's trying to get out? And that's kind of the second part of the story.
So then you made your way straight to Budapest, or did you spend a couple more days on the border, or what happened next?
No, we decided we went to Budapest. We got a small in Budapest for a couple of days. We at first we were thinking maybe we would go to Italy because my company's offices are in Italy, and we thought we could stay there. But honestly, like time was so critical, especially then. Like there was so much to do back then because there were so many people reaching out, for assistance, while at the same time there's lots of people reaching out with offers of help. So we were just essentially just manually connecting people and helping them find housing or connecting them with people who are offering to help. And that was kind of what was taking up most of our time, I would say, over the first 5-6 days. So 2 days in the hotel, then we moved. I got us an Airbnb, like a larger Airbnb, because we had another family that we took in, with us. It was it was a mom and three young kids. So they stayed with us for a couple of days before heading out. And that's it. We're just kind of in this Airbnb now, and my wife's family came yesterday, so they're staying here. So we're just, kind of housing everyone and now trying to figure out what to do next.
You already mentioned that earlier, that you haven't really decided on what to do next. You mentioned Italy, but what are like the options, the next steps that you might want to take?
So I think the options are, like, obviously I'm much more flexible, but we're kind of thinking right now for my wife's family, for her friends, like what they can do. And the only two countries today that have official kind of not what it's called, I'm not sure what it's called, but like official support for refugees are Germany and Spain. So basically what that means is, I think they provide you with some sort of, like, with a little bit of money, and
I think public transport is also free if you come from the Ukraine. I've heard that the trains are taking on refugees if you, I guess, some documents, or you can show that you're coming from the Ukraine. I've heard some stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I believe in Germany they have some camps set up for refugees, so you can kind of stay in the camp and get a little bit of money. I don't know exactly the case in Spain, but I think it's something similar. So that's why we're kind of thinking, maybe, like, for my wife's parents, maybe it's good to take them either to Germany or to Spain, to kind of, I don't know how you even call it, but like basically to sign up as official kind of refugees and kind of settle up there. I think we're leaning a little bit more towards Spain right now, simply because there's a large Ukrainian diaspora in the south of Spain, and I think lifestyle is a little bit, I think in general things are a little bit cheaper there.
What is diaspora?
Diaspora. Diaspora is like it's like there's a Ukrainian community of people
okay. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So it would be less of a shock basically for them, because they don't speak Spanish, they don't really speak English, so it's very difficult. It's especially difficult for them. So at least if they have some some kind of people they can at least speak the same language to, it would make it an easier transition. And also it's not that expensive there, so I think we're leaning towards maybe going there, spending a couple of months there, and just kind of seeing what happens in Ukraine, just kind of which way the wind blows. I think everyone is hoping, kind of praying that maybe there will be a way for us to go back. I think everyone wants to go back to Ukraine and live there. But it obviously just depends on how things play out. I don't think anyone wants to live in the in the Soviet Union. I mean, this is or under Putin's dictatorship. That is that is a scary thought. And Ukraine has been well, it's been kind of, even though it's kind of really corrupt, but it is a democratic country that's been free, with a free press and kind of everything kind of free over the past 30 years, ever since it went away from the Soviet Union. So 30 years, I mean, that's a full generation, right? So you have a full generation of kids and young adults who grew up in a country that they know is kind of free, even though with all its problems, it's still one where you can kind of voice your opinion. You get to kind of choose your president and do what you want, right? Like it is a democracy, even if it's flawed, and that I don't see how Putin can just force that down. I just think people will continue to resist for a long time. So it's very difficult to say how this plays out, but we are kind of hopeful that maybe there there will be some kind of resolution, and many people can go back.
I was just about to ask that. I don't want to turn this too much too political, at least from my side, because even though I try to gather as many information as possible in order to draw my own picture, but I mean, you can share whatever it is on your mind. Um, uh, so you were just sharing what you're hoping what's going to happen, but considering of what you have experienced and what you have seen, what you have read and everything, what do you think is the most likely, or what are
Mm.
the most likely scenarios going to be in the near
Phew.
future?
Yeah, we keep discussing this. It's so flexible. I mean, I think I mean the way I see it, uh, I think certainly Putin underestimated like the resolve of the Ukrainian people. So certainly, I think he expected that would end up being much cheaper for him and much less painful. But now we're in a situation where he has no way to retreat. He can't, like, if he retreats, like, he's just done. Like, as a president, he can't take that loss. So for
Yeah.
him, he's all in essentially, right? He must make it happen one way or another. Um, so
But even then, do
I
you really think he can win? Is there a way for him to, again, this is not my point to judge, but just like
yeah.
what's a solution where that is the most friendliest and best outcome for Ukraine, but also where Putin is not losing his face.
Yeah, and that's the only place where we can kind of end up, and I feel like there's still going to be people kind of unhappy on both sides and happy on both sides. Like we're never going to be. I don't see us coming up in a situation where we just like have like full defeat of Putin. Like that doesn't seem like realistic. So the realistic scenarios are probably, unfortunately, the way I see it is it's probably like there's probably going to be a lot more pain and destruction, that'll kind of, you know, force us to come to some sort of a deal. And at the same time, hopefully enough losses on, from Putin's side that'll, at least make him more flexible as well. Um, so, I've heard a lot of kind of pundits say that likely where this can head is kind of like a breakup of Ukraine. So that seems like a reasonable possibility where some part of Ukraine could be could be um like
Part
the
of
eastern part of
Russia.
Ukraine could, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
either part of Russia or quote unquote independent but really
Yeah.
kind of controlled by Russia. You know, and then maybe some part of Ukraine, like the western part, that kind of retains uh, to be true, like a true democracy or in some way, and part of the European Union, perhaps. But I don't know. That's just like one of many, many different possible outcomes. Obviously, I'm still hoping that with all the support and weapons that are coming into Ukraine, we make this as difficult as possible for them, and with the economy and in Russia collapsing, perhaps there's some chance that he gets overthrown. I think it's but it's very hard for me
Yeah,
to
of
judge
course.
these things. I'm certainly like very biased, and I've realized, obviously I am, I understand that I'm biased, so it's hard for me to be kind of balanced, thinking about both sides. And it's
Sorry,
hard to get a real
have
picture.
I have to jump in. I feel like you're trying to
Yeah,
be very political correct here, and like let's find a good solution for Russia and Ukraine. It's like, listen, just get the fuck out of this country. This is just something you're not supposed to do. Like, let's not understand, like. And I've mostly also felt support coming from the community, but at some point we have to draw the line. And yes, there's certainly things not going so well from both sides, from Ukraine and Russia and the West, and probably this could have sorted out a better way. But there is no justification for
yeah.
this invasion. And if there's a
The,
little bit of brain cells left in Putin, he just gets the fuck out of there and just leaves you guys alone.
the the way, I mean, of course I agree. I mean, it's his justification of denazification, or just like him accusing Ukrainians of killing Russians. I mean, it's complete nonsense, and it's just I mean, it's mind-boggling to even say that. But you know, I think the way to look at it is like, are you, if you look at it like in the time span of like 5 or 10 years, then it's like, how do I put this? It almost doesn't make sense what he's doing, because he's literally hurting his own country, his own citizens, by their economy and everything by doing this. But if you look at it from a time scale of like 30 years or 50 years or 100 years, right? Like which I suspect maybe that's what he's doing, and in his like rebuilding, then it kind of starts to make sense. So he's like, maybe I can withstand the losses that I'm going to take now over the next 10, 20 years. But 50 years from now, Russia's going to be bigger, Russia's going to be more powerful. I suspect it's some sort of logic like that. So it really depends on which level you look at it from, right? Like
Interesting,
and which what time horizon you look at it from. So he's certainly shown he doesn't give a shit about human life or what that costs. He's just kind of focused on on playing this grand long-term game of empire building, and at whatever it takes, he doesn't care. If it's making up complete lies, nonstop lies to his citizens and to the world, he doesn't care, as long as it helps him achieve his goal.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Yeah. It's scary when normal people get in the middle of it and get hurt, and that's the most awful part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Eugene, I know you have so many things to take care of, and I want to take too much of your time anymore. Is there anything else that you have on your heart, on your mind, that you would like to share, or maybe put straight, that is something you've seen, hey, this is just not very well researched, what is being posted on social media, and I just want to put some things straight? Anything else you would like to share with us?
I mean, nothing specific comes to mind. I would say mostly just, just hopefully that people continue to support Ukraine, and what's going on, and I think the reason why Ukraine has received so much support from all over the world, especially from so many European countries, is because the politicians see that how many people have kind of went on the streets and shown their support for Ukraine. I mean, I saw like incredible numbers of people going to protests in Germany and Switzerland and just all over the world. Yeah. And I think when the politicians see that, they're like, okay, well, the public's behind us. We can provide more support for Ukraine. So I think it's just important not to forget what's going on, not to forget how much pain the Ukrainians are going through. And I think every little bit helps. Every little bit of support helps. So
yeah. Absolutely, 100%. You have my support. I think you also have the support from the Raise Your Edge community. So thank you so much. Again, guys, you find all the information in the description. Every penny helps. Don't hesitate. If you have questions, if you have concerns, worries, if you need someone to talk, reach out in our Discord community. If this is also, I think, also a great form of support. If you know someone that needs help, talk to them, and just be there for your neighbors, for your friends, even people you might not know so well. So that's the time to get a little closer, to support each other. So thank you so much, Eugene, for taking the time, and I wish you all the best. Stay healthy, stay safe. Yeah. All the best to you, the Ukrainians, all the people that live in Ukraine, not only Ukrainians. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions, we're going to be looking closely in the comments. If you have anything on your mind that you would like to share, any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
And yeah, thank you so much once again for taking the time here.